Welcome back to Spinnerack Bros, episode 10. This is James, and I have Heath on the line with me, and we're going to be talking about the MCU future speculation. This is the part 2. We did a part 1 a little bit earlier. You guys seem to enjoy it. We've had Endgame hit the theaters, so we decided to, since it was so nice, we'll do it twice. So I got Heath on the line. Say hi, Heath.
Hi, Heath. Boy, you said Avengers hit. Boy, Avengers Endgame hit.
It really did.
There's nothing left of the box office. It's just rubble.
Exactly. It is hitting and holding, as they say. It is like decimating the competition, like big time.
Yeah, it's insane. I think we all expected it to be big, but I did not expect it to be that big.
Yeah, it looks like it might crush a lot of. It already has crushed a lot of records, but can it reach that Avatar? What's the movie with the boat? Titanic levels. The movie with the boat. Yeah, I don't know. So, like I said, we did some speculation in the previous podcast episode that we put out, and we just were kind of having fun. We don't normally do stuff like that, but we thought it would be something fun to go over. Now that we've seen the movie, we're gonna just kind of throw certain thoughts we might have out there on what might be coming in the future. Anything coming out of the movie that sticks out to you as far as what direction things might be going, that one major thing that you were like, oh, okay, I see where this is going.
I mean, not plot-wise, but structure-wise, or just like overall, like what? My words are failing. The passing of the torch, or the literal passing of the shield. This is spoilers, right? So we're gonna get
this is spoiler related. So if you haven't seen the movie, I'm sorry. Stop now, please.
Everybody dies.
Exactly. Twice.
By the way, there was that guy in the theater when we went. Nobody wants that guy. That guy, and then I read a report in China, some guy came out with spoilers and they beat his butt in the parking lot.
Wow.
But there was that guy who's when we were standing in line to go in, he's like, Captain America dies, which now I know wasn't true, but
why do that?
Taking your life in your own hands, you say something like that.
Yeah, did you see the video where the school kid, a friend of his, was trying to be funny and he spoiled it and he punched him in the face in front of the whole class?
No.
Yeah, he was like, what up? He was talking to him and he was like, you saw Endgame? He's like, man, I haven't seen it yet, don't spoil it. And he was like, well, he blurted something out. I kind of don't even know what he said. He was like, dude, you're such a a-hole. He was like, pow, just, why? He hit him dead in the face. It just walked out of the class.
Hey, I understand it. That's the world. Man, you can't be doing stuff like that. Everybody wants to. There's always that one guy that wants to be cute and wants to be funny. And this is not the movie for that, man. You can get yourself hurt.
Yeah, and I think it was such a thing that, I worked so hard because I wasn't seeing it till Saturday to try to avoid
me too.
Anything whatsoever. And I was going, I went to a 9:30 in the morning show. So I was just legit, not trying to see anything or look anywhere to get any hint of a spoiler whatsoever before going into the movie. And it was tough because it was people that saw it were so excited and wanted to talk more about it, which I understand. Sure. But it made it like a minefield trying to maneuver through it. But yeah, like you were saying, the passing of the torch or the shield.
Passing of the shield, yeah. So I think that I think in a lot of ways they're going to follow the path of the comics. They've never followed them step by step or beat for beat, but they seem to have used the comics as a guideline,
right?
Taking the things that work, taking overall character beats and things like that. So I think we'll definitely, obviously, I think we're going to get to see Sam step up and inhabit the persona of Captain America or whatever he chooses to do. I think that's going to be a legacy character. That's the only thing that really stood out for me as far as this is clearly the direction we're going to go in. That's the only really thing that I saw is just because Steve Rogers is gone does not mean that Captain America is over.
Right.
That's what really stood out for me. And they could theoretically, do that with like an Ironheart or something like that. I don't think that they will bring Ironheart into the movies, but I think maybe something like that. Rhodey as War Machine, maybe he steps up and he becomes Iron Man at some point in the future. I think legacy is the way to go with this. I think passing the torch. I think Marvel is interested, Disney, whoever is interested in not just retiring entire characters. I think that what they've been experimenting with for the last, 5 years in the comics, maybe more than that. I guess since the end of, it kind of started around Civil War, I guess, didn't it?
Yeah.
Is that it's not necessarily the person behind the costume or the suit. It's the suit itself, and then you can pass that down. So that's what I think. I think we'll see a lot more of that. I think that as older characters move out, they'll bring in new ones to inhabit not the same role, but a similar role.
Right. And I agree with you on that. And I felt like that was perfectly good setup. Him passing the shield was a setup for the Disney Plus, the Falcon and Winter Soldier show, where we'll see what happens in him coming into his own kind of as Cap. And I guess if they named it Cap in the Winter Soldier, that it might have gave something away. So they just gave it the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So we do know that Disney Plus show was coming. And I felt like, okay, that's set up for that, because we saw that even though they were kind of, I like their banner and like civil banter between one another in Civil War with Sam and Bucky. It's kind of cool that you saw them kind of bond together and they were closer, like as friends in this movie. So I like where that show will be going, and that I felt like that was a show that was set up nicely. We clearly got the whole Loki show set up from the 2012 botch heist for the Space Stone or the Tesseract, and Loki got his hands on it and he portaled out. So I'm assuming that Disney Plus show is going to pick up where that thread was left, because they never addressed it at all in the movie. After he it was just like, oh, we'll go to 1970 and get the Tesseract there, and it's like, but he left with it though. Like, didn't that create a divergent timeline? I thought they said if you remove the stone out of, I don't know, but I figured that was a good setup for what we probably will see in that show. I know we had the WandaVision show, which they really didn't touch on anything setting that up. So I guess it remains to be seen where that show is going to come from. I heard in the interview that she mentioned recently that some stills, like at one of the trade shows that they were showing off presenting Disney Plus, that it was like pictures and it looked like they were in the 50s. And she was like, that's a good tease on what the show's going to be. And I'm like, wait, Wanda in the 50s? I don't necessarily get it. I like the Wanda and Vision character. I mean, I was a big, in the 80s, was a huge West Coast Avengers fan. So I loved so much of her and their love story and stuff developed through that series, and I always had a affection for it. So I wanted to want to see it, but I was like, in the 50s, why? It doesn't really fit. But I whatever. I trust it to be whatever it's going to be when it comes out.
It'll make sense.
They'll make it make sense at that point.
I think they know what they're doing. We should trust them.
They have a plan. I know they're still trying to get everything on board and get Jeremy Renner on board for the Hawkeye series that they want to do. So it hasn't been 100% confirmed, but I know they're trying to get him locked in to commit to doing it. And they've already talked about they want him to, we're going to be introduced to Kate Bishop, and I guess it's going to be him based on, I guess, kind of Black Widow sacrifice, him kind of like passing the torch and kind of so he can settle and be with his family and kind of put that behind him and pass the mantle kind of on, which leads me to think, and I've heard Feige in different interviews kind of hint towards this, that they want to push towards a young Avengers franchise at some point. And I feel like they kind of are slowly, right under our noses, kind of putting pieces on the board, because we know Kate Bishop is going to potentially come through this Hawkeye series. I don't know what roles. I mean, I know he said, because they want to push diversity. I know a lot. He brought up too in previous interviews. They want to bring Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, into the MCU at some point. And I know in a later iteration of Young Avengers, she was a part of the team. I'm like, who would fill the Iron Lad role? Till I noticed at the end of the movie, at Tony's funeral at the beach or the river home or whatever you want to call it, that it was the teenage boy. I can't remember who he's behind, but he was by himself, and I didn't know who it was, and it bugged me. And I did research and found out that it was the kid from Iron Man 3, and it was the same actor, the whole nine. Was it? Oh gosh, what is his name? I had wrote it in my notes for the other episode. Was it Kylie Keener or something like that? The little boy that helped him in Iron Man 3. And I'm like, they put him there for a reason. I'm like, who's that? And they don't put people in movies for no reason. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I'm wondering if they're putting all these little pieces around just to be like, you remember he was there? And maybe, because, we know at the end of Iron Man 3, so much was set up with, Tony, redid his whole garage and left him a car and, probably left him a scholarship, so it looked like he was well off. So it's interesting. I feel like we might be seeing that character and seeing these little remnants of these. And then we have Cassie aged up. So Stature, she was an original member of Young Avengers. So they're putting these pieces on the board, kind of like in the the parameter, this lining these little characters up, like, oh, don't mind her over there and don't mind him over here. To bam, we might eventually get something. I don't think it'll be something right away. No. It might be something like within the next, I say 3 years or so, 3 to 4 years. I think they're kind of lined up for the next few years. And we talked about this in the first speculation, what movies are kind of on the board that they've announced. Now, has your opinion changed on, now we roughly know kind of what the world is looking like now to an extent? Like, we know who's kind of off the board and who's where. Do you have like any thoughts on where like maybe that Doctor Strange movie will go, or Shang-Chi, or that's been announced, where those kind of things might go? And are you a little bit more or less kind of hyped for those movies?
Oh, that's big, man. That's a big question. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not hyped for anything, honestly. I'm not. I don't think that I do that. I don't think that I'm like, oh, but what if this and what if this?
Right.
I tend to not do that. I don't. I feel like for now I'm just enjoying the ending. And we had talked in the last one about. I was like, I don't think there's. Didn't I say I don't think there's going to be a post-credit sequence? I don't think
it's going to be. You said that. Yeah. Matter of fact, you did.
I said I think it's going to be a hard ending, and I think we got a hard ending. And so moving forward, I think we're going to start over not from scratch, but I think that we're going to start small again. And then over the next, I think there's probably another 10-year plan, probably another 20 movies or something like that they're just going to slowly start. Well, probably not slowly. I do think the build will be slow. I was thinking, while you were talking, I was thinking about, I said, I don't know that they'll bring Ironheart. Wasn't it Ironheart? Wasn't that the name of the character?
Yeah,
that was
Riri Williams. Yeah, Ironheart.
I don't think it's going to be Riri Williams, but they clearly now have a Stark. Like Tony Stark has a daughter, and they have he didn't have a daughter before this movie, and now we have a character that in the next few years will be like a teenager, and who's to say in 5 years, you're talking about like a Young Avengers or something like that, who's to say in the next few years that they don't put her in a suit of armor and she carries on the legacy of her father as Ironheart or something like that.
Right.
So I think we're looking at a very slow build. I don't know. I think, well, yes, I think Doctor Strange, I mean, I have no idea where those plots will go. I have no idea. But I think that they're going to start, now that they have the Fox properties, they're going to start building to something like this again, a major threat. Because now you've got Galactus, you've got who else? I mean, there's so many cosmic level threats that you could go with. I guess Galactus is probably the one that I'd be most excited to see. But I don't know. Maybe then there's like MODOK or something. I don't know. But no, I think we're just on a build now, and we'll get more Ant-Man, more Doctor Strange, more Spider-Man, obviously, and they'll just continue to build these. And the heroes that 10 years ago. 8 years ago, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, like these characters were not the legends that they are now. They built them, and I think that they're going to build the new legends. But something that I said in my review that I did for Serial at Midnight is that I don't think we've seen anything like. I don't think we've ever seen anything like what we just saw as far as the journey, the 22 movies. Mm-hmm. To get to this point, and I was like, I don't think any other franchise has ever accomplished this, and I don't think they ever will accomplish this again. I think that first wave is movie history, and I think they'll do it again. They'll build to a huge threat. They'll build all these characters, and by the time we get to wherever we're going, we will have as much invested in these characters as we have invested. We'll have as much invested in the upcoming characters. Doctor Strange, I mean, we already love Doctor Strange, but I think that by the time we get 7-8 years down the road, we will love those characters. Like, we will have lived with them, and we won't be able to deal with the fact that some of them might be going away or something like that. But I don't think that it can live up to the same level of prestige, what we've all invested in Captain America and in Iron Man. Those are the legends to me. So I don't know. I think we're in a building phase, and I think that Marvel is going to build everything that they can build. Cosmic, Celestials, like you said, Young Avengers. I think if there's a comic book, we're going to see it. If a character has ever been introduced in a Marvel comic book, we're going to see it on the big screen. Nothing is off limits.
Right. Yeah, and I'm curious I'm definitely curious to see how things kind of take shape. And I mean, they said that Far From Home is the last film in phase 3, where I guess it's kind of the epilogue to this, what they're calling the Infinity Saga. And I totally agree. I said a similar thing in my review that it was historic and epic, and we're not, like you said, we're not going to see anything like this. Again, not on the level that it was. It'll be tweaked, the variation that they'll. Like you said, Feige will know not to hit the same pitfalls or try to hit the same notes, but it'll be a slow build up to something, big at this, for sure. Now we know we got Far From Home coming up in a couple of months. Then we have, I think, the next film is Black Widow, that is, I think, slated to come out like this time next year, which we assume at this point from what happened in the movie that it's a prequel. I don't know, again, we'll get more information on where the movie will be slated. Will it be slated pre-Avengers, the Avengers? Or will it needs
to be Red Sparrows. It needs to be the origin of Black Widow, because we never really got it. She never got her due in the movies.
Yeah, she never did, and I don't know. I don't want to go off on a tangent on this, but they fleshed, because here's the thing. I watched a lot of the TV shows. They talked a lot about the Red Room in that program, and they touched on it in a few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I think season 1, and a lot of it, and we were introduced to the first Black Widow that came from the Red Room in Agent Carter season. Well, they dealt with her. She was like the main villain in season 1 and season 2. She was a blonde Black Widow, and her name was Dottie something another.
Can we just say, if people haven't watched Agent Carter, that show was amazing.
Yes, it was, and I
liked season 2 less than season 1.
I agree.
But they were still both solid, and they were short runs too. They're like 8 episode seasons, so we love that show.
I hope that it comes back via Disney Plus, since it got canceled via ABC. I hope maybe they'll go back and because they left a cliffhanger. They thought they were going to get a season 3, and then they got canceled, and so it was certain things that were kind of cliffhangers at the end of season 2.
Yeah, because it was a flashback show. There's literally they can do anything. It has no finite shelf life. You just go tell a story when you got one to tell.
Yeah, so I would like to see like another 8-episode run just to finish up the things they kind of set, or even 6 episodes just to finish up kind of those plot threads. I would like to see, but I digress. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see will they pick that time frame, or would they pick kind of because we don't know what she did after Winter Soldier when she kind of dropped the bombshell of all the information of Hydra and SHIELD, and she kind of went off to kind of find herself. We saw her in a better place when we saw her again in Civil War, but it's still that gap of time. We don't know what she did during that period. You remember she walked off from Congress and kind of just walked off. You know what I mean? So there's a kind of gap there. So it's interesting if it's a prequel where what kind of section of time where they kind of pick. And I'm like you, I would like to see a true origin story for her to get her just due, because I loved her character arc throughout the movies, and that was the biggest gut punch I think for me in the movie when she died. That was a tough one for me because I just have loved her character and how it's progressed through the movies.
You notice in my review we didn't even mention it.
It's so many things. I left out certain stuff that I wanted to talk about in my, and it's like you always going to leave things on the table. So it's like I kind of make peace with it at a point where I was like, I can't talk. You try to remember everything, but it was so much, like we both said in our reviews, it was so much to unpack here. So much happened that it's hard to try to recall everything off the top of your head and speak on every minute point.
And that wasn't really what we wanted to do anyway. Bree and I, at least, we just wanted to talk about how it made us feel, because everybody's going to have a different opinion.
True.
But I did want to, real quick, while you're talking about it, I wanted to butt in here and just say that, like, some people complain about the gaps that the Marvel movies leave. Like, now we have Smart Banner. We basically have like the Gray Hulk, more or less, and they didn't really explain. Well, they didn't explain at all, really, how he got there. It's just kind of a couple of lines of exposition, and that really bothers some people. But I love that because it leaves huge opportunities to go tell other stories later.
Right. True.
We have a tendency to want to fill every gap immediately, and that's when people do make their 46 things wrong with so and so. They're like, well, they never explain why so and so has such and such. And I'm like, yeah. They didn't. Isn't that cool? Because now you don't know. Now you wonder. It's not necessarily a plot hole as much as it's just them leaving room to tell future stories and to really do it right. So now we could have like a whole Hulk mini-series or a Hulk movie or something where we figure out how that happened.
Yeah, I agree. Like certain things you have to kind of leave open because they have plans to stories, or like you said with, it seems like Feige's really going to push the Disney Plus platform to kind of tell stories like that, which I'm all for. I don't have a problem with that at all. What else do we got on the board? We got Far From Home. We got Black Widow. We have a Black Panther sequel that we know is sometime 2021. I think there's the date they're shooting for that release, and then Doctor Strange. I think those are going to be the movies that, I think it's 3 movies kind of slated for 2021, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and the Eternals movie. They're shooting for like 3 films that year, and those are going to be 3 movies. And again, like you said, I don't know what a Black Panther sequel is going to be, or Doctor Strange, or Eternals. Like, I'm just on board for the ride, and I'll look forward to them when they come. Yeah. And then I know in 2022, we have the Shang-Chi movie and the Guardians movie. Now, my question about the Guardians movie, and I feel a certain kind of way about this the Gamora situation, how it was left in the movie. Was she dusted or not dusted? That's all I want to know.
Which one? Like...
We know, as far as what we know everything with the Soul Stone cannot be reversed. So Black Widow's dead and Gamora's dead, as far as what we know, because Hulk or Grey Hulk or Professor Hulk did say that when he snapped, he tried to bring her back and he couldn't. He tried to bring Black Widow back. and that didn't happen. So I feel like that's unreversible. But my question is, we know the 2014 Gamora that came with Thanos, she did turn on him and was helping the good guys. But we didn't see when Tony snapped his fingers, we didn't see her get dusted at all. And we saw Peter searching for Gamora. My assumption is, because that's the only thing I could do because we didn't see anything on screen to represent she's gone, is that maybe she ran off during the end of the fray and she's somewhere there in the universe. And I'm like, is Guardians Volume 3 going to be the search for Gamora? Not the search for Spock, but the search for Gamora? Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think
it is.
But
at least in some capacity, I think it is.
And the one thing I don't like about that, I don't want to see a whole Guardians movie where Peter is trying to convince her to fall back in love with him all over. We've seen that story.
Yeah,
you know
I don't
think
they'll do that.
I hope not, because I was like,
I would imagine. Look at how much we thought was going to be in this. Like 99% of this movie was a surprise, and was like, I had no idea. I think they keep some of this stuff close to the vest. I mean, look, it's just a plot point that we think might be coming, but I think that'll be part of it. But now you've got Thor on the ship as well, as Guardians of the Galaxy. No, I think it will probably. I think that will be an aspect of it, but I don't think that will be the whole movie. I don't think it'll be the search for Gamora. I think that might be part of it. But I know James Gunn is too subversive to do that. He will he will throw all kinds of stuff, and I know that he's even talked about. I've been listening to some podcast interviews with him too, and James Gunn, and he's basically been talking about how like he wants to bring back the original Guardians of the Galaxy, the Stallone and like I think that'll all play a part in it too. And they set up Warlock in that last Guardians movie, so remember,
at the very end,
Adam Warlock,
at the very end of it,
So I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Yeah, so
but I don't think she's dusted. I do think she's still out there.
Yeah, so I think, and you know, that leaves the whole question about how does that affect that timeline? Because I wondered when Tony snapped, did he like dust them, and they were gone? So like, is it a gap in that timeline where Thanos and his army and all that doesn't exist in that divergent timeline, or did he snap and it just put them back in that timeline?
I don't know, but you know what would be really cool is that this movie more or less sets up a multiverse where you can go. I hope that I'm sure they will explore that, because why bring it up if you're not going to explore it? Now we have multiple Earths or multiple dimensions and timelines. Earth 616, Earth whatever.
Which Doctor Strange had, you know, they opened that door in that movie, and now it's open more with the quantum realm as well. So so much they do have on the table that they can, like, going forward to explore so many different directions, which I think is exciting and cool. Because like you said, now it's like we have such a bigger world, and the whole cosmic is still so much cosmic wise we haven't explored. And I liked the way they used Captain Marvel in the movie. They used her very sparingly, because in her movie she was set up to be so OP, and then how she stated numerous times, like, all this stuff is happening all over the universe, and it's no Avengers on these planets. It's just me out here on my own trying to cover it. So I look forward to seeing, like, I want to see more of the cosmic aspect of the MCU. You know, because we just started getting the tip of it through the Guardians movies, and I liked what I saw. You know what I mean? And I want more of that. You know, because I always was a fan of the Guardians of the Galaxies as a kid. Like, when my cousins used to hand off their old comics to me, I used to read like the OG, you know, so Stallone, you know, those Guardians, and Martin X, the Crystal guy, and Yandel, the original Yandel with no shirt, the mohawk. I grew up on those guys, and I used to love them. So it'll be cool to see. I liked where they set them up in Guardians 2, and to see more of that side of the Marvel universe, you know. So it'll be cool to see what directions they go now. And before everything happened with James Gunn, you know, Feige had pretty much said he was going to be the overseer of the cosmic side, and they were going to go heavy cosmic, you know, Guardian Streep on. So I hope maybe since they brought him back, that still is in effect, because I feel like he's done such a great job so far with it, that if he's overseeing it under Feige, I feel like they can't screw it up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he's done a good job shepherding it so far. So I hope that kind of still kind of, plays in the cards. Mm-hmm. But that's all the kind of things that I saw that was like on the board from before that kind of, speculation. We don't know anything about the Captain Marvel sequel at this point. I think we both kind of said it. It'll be a while before we see like another air quotes Avengers style movie, because it's going to be that slow build back, build up towards that. I kind of like being in the dark right now. We still kind of have to wait and see. I know Feige said in a couple of interviews that something to the effect like we'll know more after Far From Home. So maybe D23 this year, or maybe even San Diego Comic-Con, they probably will lay out this kind of blueprint that we've seen. And I just went back through news articles, and when they made announcements kind of about these release dates, they're tentative. And we talked about before, like what directors and writers were like associated with the different movies. We know Black Widow has a director and a writer. We know Black Panther has a writer and director. We know Scott Derrickson said he's coming back for Doctor Strange. They don't have a writer. They have writers and directors for Eternals, and we heard all the rumors about they're trying to get Angelina Jolie in that movie. Shang-Chi has a writer and a director. We know James Gunn is, doing Guardians 3. He's shooting Suicide Squad first, and then he's coming to do. That's why it got pushed back all the way to 2022 because of that. So yeah, most of these have writers and directors. We haven't had any casting on Eternals outside of them trying to get Angelina and Shang-Chi. They haven't casted anyone yet. We've had a lot of different cast announcements to Black Widow, because David Harbour, right before Hellboy came out, he announced that he was cast in Black Widow. So they've done some casting for Black Widow. And I think they said it's supposed to shoot this summer-ish or something like that. Again, but it's set, from everything I heard, it's set to come out this time next year. So I guess we'll see. And Feige let something slip in an interview I saw somewhere where he was like, right now, he said, besides an Infinity War, when they were finished up Infinity War, he let it slip that it was another Marvel movie being shot / produced as we speak. And I was like, he kind of said it, and I was like, huh. I was like, well, Infinity War is finished. Far From Home is finished. What's that movie? Yeah. And, well, it's clearly a secret, or they would have promoted it. Right. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. Because I'm like, the only movie we know for next year is Black Widow that they have slated for next year. And I'm like, it's kind of interesting, because they normally at least release 2, as many as 3 movies in a year now. Yeah. So what is the other movie? Yeah, I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's X-Men or Fantastic Four either, because he said it's going to be years away. Yeah, because which I'm okay with. I want to say too. I think that's the right move, because that means that they had a plan and they're sticking with their plan. Right. And the plan did not involve Fox properties. They will incorporate those organically over time. That's the right way to do it. Yeah, because he said, I have a 5-year plan, and we already have a 5-year plan in place. And he was like, I couldn't start factoring those things in until that was totally completed. Just like with Civil War, they had 2 separate scripts for Civil War, dependent on if the deal went through with Spider-Man or not. And it went through, so they went with that other script. And but I feel like with this, it's too much, because it's all these characters and all these other toys, like you said, like Galactus, Doctor Doom, that you can then play with. That you need time to kind of see where you're going to set those things up, and we might start getting tidbits of sprinkled in as end credit scenes or stuff along the way. Maybe not in these first handful of movies we're talking about, but towards the end of this 5 years, we might start seeing little tidbits, start being played up towards we're working towards introducing X-Men or Fantastic Four. I think it would be more logical to work Fantastic Four in first, then X-Men. It just
they need to let X-Men cool off a little bit too, because they like even with Dark Phoenix, like I want to be excited. Listen, we're not going to get on a tangent about this, but I want to be excited about it. We've already seen that story. They've already made a movie out of the Dark Phoenix saga, so they need to let it cool off. And hopefully
it wasn't good.
No, and this one doesn't look great either. So let the taste of the Fox X-Men completely leave our mouths. Give us 5 years or so. Then, I legitimately think it's probably going to be like 2029 before we get the payoff on some of this stuff. I think there's a lot. I think there's a 10-year. I think there's a 5. They're clearly working in like 5-year increments here, and I think that they've probably got a 10-year plan right now.
Yeah, because if we look at the phases, even though they said they're not really calling it phases anymore, the phases ran about 4 to 5 years roughly. So we'll have this, and it was 3 phases building up to this culmination of this Infinity Saga. So, I feel like you said, if you're looking at that, it probably we'll have to get through air quotes phase 4 and transitioning into phase 5 before, like you said, we start getting more payoffs to kind of see some of that stuff pay off for sure.
And that's fine with me. Take your time.
For sure. But
I just want to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at with it being a fan is this. I want to enjoy the ride. I want to enjoy all the stuff they have to offer, even with like the Disney Plus and with the TV shows, how they're going to weave in, into it. I'm all on board to just soak it up and just enjoy it, not think about it too heavy, though we know a lot of people out there will. I think,
people are crazy, man. Like, you know how many times I saw people like, Deadpool better be in the Avengers Endgame movie, or like, if not in the movie proper, then at least in the post-credit sequence. I'm like, what? Why would Deadpool be like? He's earned none of this. He's been in none of this.
Right.
Like, that's a completely different thing. You don't just throw him in there because you have the character. So earn it, do the work, and let these characters build so naturally. But people were like, this is the society we live in now, where it's like, now that we've had Avengers Endgame, like, could you imagine if Marvel or Disney was like, okay, well, we have to top that now? There's no way. There's
no way.
So you go back to the beginning. You start over. You rebuild another thing.
True.
And that's probably going to tick some people off. But what?
But I think people, I don't know. Yeah,
that was a complaint about Captain Marvel. Aside from all the hate stuff, there was a lot of people had a problem with Captain Marvel because after Avengers: Infinity War, it felt like a huge step back. Like it was smaller. It was a smaller movie, right?
You needed that, though. I felt like you needed that afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But we're like in the Twitter society where we have an attention span of 5 minutes. It's like, well, I want bigger now. Like you can't just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think that's what a lot of people want. So that big will come, that bigger and bigger will come, but it's not coming anytime soon.
Yeah, and they don't know how daunting that is. They shot those 2 movies back to back and then with a bunch of reshoots in the middle and that's not easy to do.
No, that's how you break people. That's how you completely burn people out and ruin them so that they want to go away for forever.
Exactly. So
that's what people want to retire after things like that.
Yeah, because it's very daunting. But I mean, I feel like fandom has to calm down and mellow out and just go back to enjoying it as it comes, because we enjoyed this payoff. It built up over time. You know what I mean? It's like, so you're going to start over. You're going to get introduced to new characters. You're going to fall in love with newer characters. You're going to see more of the other characters, because we've been introduced to a lot of new characters. At this point, Doctor Strange is relatively still a new character. Black Panther is still a relatively new character. The Guardians are still relatively new characters, and it is still more story to be told on them. And we've introduced even more new characters, and will be introduced to more new characters that we will, like you said, in time, we will grow to love just as much as the previous characters. But they're the icons. They're the cornerstone of the MCU. But, they had their arcs. They had a complete arc. It came to a conclusion. Now it's time to build up those next set of characters, and you're going to care about them just as much, if not more. But you had to start with the cornerstones, so they'll get over it,
Yeah, butthurt fanboys will get over it.
Yeah,
they will. they'll have no choice.
I think we did a good job putting the button in it. Just like I said, I think we hit on all the different things we need to hit on. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on at all? I
don't think so. I think like you said, I think we put a button on it. What about you?
Yeah, I think I try to cover all everything that I could think of, and like I said, all this little stuff that I researched and retouched on some of the stuff we talked about last time, just to see what our updated thoughts were. So I think we speculated and conjectured, and enough as far as I'm concerned.
Let me give you these will be my last words on it. Having seen Avengers Endgame now, I am totally satisfied, and if we never got another Marvel movie, what a ride this was. What an incredible, in so many ways, these movies replaced the comic books for me and that feeling of importance in my life, because look, I do try to read the comic books still, but I don't get the same feeling from them that I get from these movies. These movies feel important. They feel cleaner in their storytelling. They really matter to me. They touch my heart. Not that a comic book can't do that. A comic book frequently does do that, but these movies just do it so well. And they really tap into what Stan was going for when he co-created so many of these characters. And if I never got another one, I would feel completely satisfied and at peace. So knowing that there is more and that there's more of a plan, that's just icing on the cake for me. That's just extra. So I'm completely satisfied. I'm so happy with what we've seen.
I totally agree. And I look forward to, like I did a watch-a-thon rewatching all the movies right leading into Endgame, and it was so weird because it took me through this emotional gambit that I wasn't expecting to go through, and how much I fell in love with. And I fell in love with different characters because like I said, it was a recommended watch order, and I watched it in that order. And it was just it was a love affair I had over, the month leading into the movie, going back, watching all the movies. Cause I own them all on home video digitally or whatever, except for, Captain Marvel, cause it's not out yet, but I had just recently seen it. So it was still fresh in my mind, and it was just such a fun experience. And I can't wait till everything comes out in a few months, even after we get Far From Home. So around August, September, when all 23 movies that are encompassing this in Infinity Saga, and go back and just watch them all, because I feel like I'll do that and just have a ball. I look forward to doing that. So like you said, if I didn't have any other ones but just had these 23 movies, I'm good. Like you said, anything else, you said it perfectly. It's just icing on the cake at this point. So I guess that's a good place to kind of leave it. Again, this is Spinnerack Bros episode 10. Heath, tell them where they can find you.
Serialatmidnight.com. Everything links from there. Twitter links from there. Facebook links from there. And then I guess youtube.com/serial at midnight.
And of course, you can always find me over at comicbooksavant.com, youtube.com/comicbooksavant. We do episodes over on Heath's channel as well as a part of Spinnerack Bros. We do collaborations there in video. We'll be doing future videos here. I finally got a decent webcam, so we're going to be playing around with that. We've talked about it before, so we're looking into doing some shorter form. It won't be this long. It'll be more focused, shorter videos in the future that'll come out on the YouTube channel for Comic Book Savant as well. But look over on Serial at Midnight as well for the collabs we've done over there as well. But that's all we have for you guys for this episode. We will see you guys next time for another episode of Spinnerack Bros. Until then, we will see you later.
Bye, guys. Sorry.
Bye.